Okay, so welcome to Planet Venus. My name is Dr. Venus Evans Winters. Here on Planet Venus, the podcast and YouTube channel, we talk about everything Black women and girls. Here we focus on fostering mental wealth, which includes physical, spiritual, cultural, and intellectual and financial health. I am Dr. Venus Evans Winters, and I am here with my co hosts, Raven Preston and Anaya Francis. And also, we have three guests today. I want to welcome Miss Jessica Thomas, who has recently been re-elected as the Peoria County Auditor, and also the awesome Simone Newsom, and also Miss Santina Willis, who identifies herself as a concerned citizen. And so I look forward to our conversation today. I'm going to pitch it out to you, Raven.
Me. All right. So I have a question because I've been seeing a lot of different results from the elections. Are the elections still happening? Because I'm not sure anymore. What's going on, y'all?
The elections end November 3rd, but they are still they are still tabulating. But it's looking like he will take Georgia, so it's looking like it'll be 306 before too long. I believe it's what 290 if you listen to AP.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, that's interesting because, Raymond, you're saying, are we still in the middle of election? Are people still counting? What happened to this thing called the electoral college that put, the person who's occupying the White House in office in the first place? So it's, to me, it's backwards. And of course, it's white supremacy, right? You lose the battle and you declare a war. And so that's
True.
a part of the psychology of white supremacy. That's
Mm-hmm.
the psychology of race-based terror.
Mm.
That's the psychology of threatening democracy, is that you have people questioning the process
Mm.
and you keep a sense of doubt and just lingering in the air, right?
Mhm.
So we're counting and recounting and counting again until white patriarchy
Can accept it.
decides to concede or to accept it.
It's not
Yes.
gonna add up.
I saw something on Facebook and honestly just really like resonated with me. And it was basically, I don't remember the wording, but it was basically talking about like how the country is feeling like what it's like to be Black because now they're changing the standards. Now that's not what they like. So it's like how
Mm.
African American women are the most educated. Oh, okay, the degree no longer matters. Now it's about experience.
Yeah.
And it's like the same thing. Oh, we're going to do the electoral college. That was the whole thing in 2016. And now this year they're like, oh no, something's
Yeah.
wrong. Like we got to switch it. Like we're gonna keep tweaking it until it works to what the results we want.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And a lot of
Tina,
times
can
they
you tell us more about who you are so that our audience can know where you're coming from? And then after you tell us who you are and your perspective, I do want to jump over to Miss Jessica Thomas, and so that she can explain to us too, like where does she stand as a Democratic elected public official. So Satina, can you tell us a little bit more about you?
Yeah, so my name is Santina Willis. I live in Florida. I am a part of Zeta Phi Beta. I work at the University of North Florida. I have a 5-month daughter. I am a Democrat. I would call it a platform, like a small little platform. People listen to me, I'd like to think. Um, but I'm very outspoken. I don't particularly hide how I feel about most things. And yeah, I mean, it's gotten me in trouble, but for the most part, people are with
You're gonna
it.
have to drop your information down in the chat
Mhm.
box in our comment box so that we can let our audiences know.
Yeah,
Yeah, where to
definitely,
find you.
Mhm.
definitely.
Perfectly. So I think because you just put it out there, your party affiliation, I think it's only appropriate that
I am
we represent our
great.
Democratic sitting elected official. Ms. Jessica Thomas, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your political history? Even though we know
yeah.
you're 40 under 40, so that's interesting. Your history.
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Peoria, Illinois. I went to Peoria Public Schools. I went to the Grambling State University, which is an HBCU. Um, I decided to move back to Peoria because I lived in Louisiana for a long time, and I really loved it. But my mom was like ready for me to come back home, and so I came back home. But under the pretense that if I'm coming back home, I'm going to do something to make a change in my community. I just didn't want to come back home just to work a job. And I didn't really want to work for Caterpillar, so that really wasn't something I wanted to do. So I came back home and I worked a retail job, which paid me a lot of money, and I was like, "Why did I go to college?" But
Mhm.
made a whole lot of money. I'm like, "Wow!" And I did that for a while, but then I kind of it was hard balancing sorority life and volunteering when working retail. So I kind of wanted something that kind of fulfilled me more, and also something that could kind of help with loan forgiveness, working for a nonprofit.
There
Uh,
you
so
go.
you gotta be strategic. So I decided to leave that job, which made a lot of money, and work for half the amount. Going to the nonprofit sector and work for the Boy Scouts of America, which I thank God that I did. It was the most
Wow.
phenomenal experience. I truly believe in God's divine will and how He kind of puts you in the right place at the right time. Through that organization, I was able to meet phenomenal people, phenomenal connections that I never probably would have had the privilege of meeting had I not worked for the Boy Scouts of America. Then I was like, you know what? I was really active in my sorority at that time. I was a social action chair. So with Delta, the social action chair is the hardest working position in the organization. Um, it is. It's no lie. Like,
I didn't say anything.
if anybody knows Delta, Delta is social action. So that's what we were founded upon, and that's what we do. So being a social action chair took me to DC a couple times, and in DC we had trainings how to run for office, how to mobilize and strategize in our community, how to get our community more politically activated. So bringing that trainings back, I was all fired up every time I came back from DC,
Mm,
and I challenged my sorority members to run for something. Luckily, my chapter president was like, Jessica, I'm take you up on that. I'm gonna run for something. She ran for ICC Board of Trustees. She won. Um, then we went to go look for who's gonna run for mayor. So in 2017, we're like, who's gonna run for mayor? And I didn't live in the city of Peoria. I still don't. So I couldn't run. And so we were trying to find someone else to run. And I met Corey Thomas, and I was like, hey, Corey, you should run. So Corey ran, and he almost won. But he came up like a short, like 1,000 votes of winning that. So after that, I was like, hey, I can't keep telling people that they should do something that I don't do myself. So, and running for office is a lot of sacrifice, which I didn't know then. But now I know. So I went to the election commission and researched the different offices that were going to be on the ballot next. The county auditor was the office that related mostly with my experience and what I've done as a staff accountant, as a accounting major, as having a master's in business administration. So I ran for it, and it was very difficult. The first time running for office, not only did I had a Democratic challenger in the primary, but they also had a referendum to try to eliminate my office. And again, this is the first time I'm running for office, period. Like, I didn't have big people pushing me to run. I just ran because I wanted to. So I didn't have money behind me. I had to dip a lot into my own savings to run. But luckily, I was able to educate the people of Peoria County. I defeated my challenger easily, and I defeated the referendum by 13 votes, to enable to keep my office as an elected position. It wasn't my office then. I still had to run for on a general ticket, and so I ran against a Republican that time, and I beat him. And then I became the auditor. And when I was sworn in and elected in 2018, I became the first African American male or female elected to a countywide position in Peoria County history, which was 193 years in 2018. Um, so yeah, and I became the youngest female elected to a countywide position in the history of Peoria County, and I was 33 at the time. So
wow. And you
um,
just were awarded the
yeah,
honor of 40 under 40 for
mhm,
all of your work in the community,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And Simone, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what it's like to be here on planet Venus?
Yeah, so I'm Simone. Thanks for having me here today. I went to Illinois State just like Santina and Raven, but I went for political science. So this topic was like really, really interesting. Like, get me to shut up. But so that's me. That's really what I'm interested in is politics. I live here in Chicago. I worked for Big Brothers Big Sisters, which is a nonprofit as well. Um, and yeah, just really happy to be here today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I am really interested in knowing what is it like having Kamala Harris in the White House? What is that like for you? Anybody can answer, but I'm really interested in Jessica because I'm assuming this means a lot for your elected position.
I think it's major having Kamala there, as a a woman of color, and I just think it's awesome. I'm just really kind of waiting to see exactly what the administration does,
Mhm.
and and especially because she's a graduate of a HBCU, what they would do to promote and uplift and financially help a lot of the financially strapped HBCUs. So, I mean, it was, to me, it was more of a relief to get Donald Trump out of office,
Mhm.
honestly.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think once January comes, January 20th comes, then I think I can relish and celebrate the
Yes.
fact that we do have a woman of color in one of the highest offices in the United States for the first time ever. So
Mhm.
I am excited, but I'm also excited to see what they do, especially with the student loans and HBCUs. So
She has a whole agenda. I can't wait till I can vote for you for president.
I don't want to be president.
Mhm.
Well, Santina, what would it be like? What is it like for you to even imagine um, a Kamala in the White House?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm really happy, like she said, about the accomplishment, the first black woman to get the title. But it is still one of those things where I think I'm a little more excited that Trump is out than I am excited. I am excited of who got in, but I have small concerns about Kamala and about Biden. Like, I won't lie about it. So right now I'm celebrating, but come January, I do need to see the action because as they were running, I honestly can't say I was the biggest Kamala fan. Like, I'll be honest about it. Like, I wasn't the biggest fan of hers after, doing some research and things like that of things
Mhm.
she's done in California. I do hope that she'll move a little better for me, I guess. But I mean, either way, it's still a win. Like, let's be clear, I'm still happy we won.
Mhm.
But I do think that I'm not gonna hold my tongue. No, stop. Okay. I do think I'm going to wait and see before I really say how I feel.
Mhm.
That's definitely fair. That's definitely fair. What about you, Simone? Um, what is it like? What aside from her politics, what is the representation of how, like, having Kamala in the White House mean for
Um,
Black women?
I feel like it means everything. I mean, I remember what it felt like when Obama, a black man, was elected into the White House. So now to see a woman, it's like it feels like, well, yes, we have a very, very, very long way to go in terms of respecting Black women and holding their opinions as, as valid as a man's, even a Black man's, But I feel like seeing her in there and seeing that people wanted her in there really, to me, shows we are beginning to get that respect and opinions are being, um, I can't even think of the word I'm looking for right now, but they're being validated, like
Hmm.
we need that. We need somebody who looks like me, or we need somebody who thinks like me in there. And it's just, I think, not to sound corny, but it really does show that, like, if you want to get there one day, you can get there. Like, it's not some, like, oh, when pigs fly or when hell freezes over. Like it's actually she's there, and she, like she said in her speech, like she might be the first, but she's definitely not going to be the last. So that's what's really encouraging to hear, I guess.
It's really interesting, Simone, because when I hear you all talk about, Vice President elect Kamala Harris in the White House, I keep thinking, wait a minute, we're talking about her like she's going to be the president.
Mm.
She
So that says
might.
a lot about where she's at. Yeah, well,
Biden is 78.
He's
yeah,
very
I mean,
old.
but
He's
this 2000,
old.
this 2020. Jessica, I was trying not to ever say that, like I'm like, don't say that, don't say that. Every time a camera's on, don't say that. But yeah, I thought about it. I'm like, ooh, wow, don't Venus, right? But she's so she might, right? But I think that it's like, how when you have you lean towards this great white hope, it's like she's the great black hope, which, as Satina has said, is kind of, it complicates things because we know her history, right, as a prosecutor. We also know that when hell freezes over, that will they have a black woman president because they didn't want a white woman president. I mean, to be clear, and so Kamala Harris is not the first black woman in the White House. Okay, because if we're gonna move past politics of respectability, it was Michelle Obama who was in there putting up her own pictures and making sure her kids made up their bed. So let's be clear about that, you know. But I think that's why I'm interested in what she symbolizes for black women who really threw our entire weights and energies and prayers and tears behind this election. I think it was at the right moment, right? So Anaya, I know that you are really engaged in political science, and I know that you believe in intersectionality, race and gender. So what does Kamala Harris represent as far as black women and how we approach intersectional policies and politics?
I think when looking at her, not also just the fact that she is a black woman, but she's also South Asian, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So she's also bringing in that identity. When it comes to identities in politics, we're rarely ever seen, and it's because we're never at the table. So nobody's like, let's bring this voice in. And for me, I really just want to see if she's going to bring these voices in, if she's going to bring marginalized voices in to what's happening very specifically, especially since she also tweeted out recently, like thanking Black women about like their part in the election. I don't necessarily know how I feel about that because now I'm seeing all of these pictures with her and Black girls. So I'm like, they're your target right now, and I understand that, and I want to support it, but I don't know, like I still can't really get past her history as well.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
and she's a political. Is she a political pawn, Anaya, or because I can't see her as a political pawn, but I'm curious if we see her as she was a political tool. Because I voted for Stacey Abrams. I'm just kidding. I'm being petty.
Well, of course she was. I think there was a heavy kind of ask or expectation for Biden to select a woman of color. Like everyone knew that. And so, I think Kamala, I mean, I don't know how he came around to Kamala. I know Kamala has a lot of allies that are moving into political circles. Because I was really wanting Val Demings, but people was like, oh no, they're really gonna be hard on her because she's a former cop and all this other stuff. But I wanted my sword to be the first. So I was pulling for her, but yeah, I think there was a definite expectation, and whether she's a pawn or not, um, that's a kind of a negative term, but yeah, she kind of is. Like
Yeah,
it
it's
was
a token.
it was an expectation that he had to pick her,
Mhm.
pick a black woman or a woman of color.
That's definitely.
And Jessica, I'm not I don't I'm not suggesting that like I'm a political expert, but I think that you definitely understand that, and I think it was Martin Luther King who kind of hinted at this. Like black people, we've always had skin in the game, especially black women since the enslavement period. But we do have to think politics is strategizing. I tell my students that all the time, from a intersectional, Black feminist, Pan African perspective, intersectional politics, that we have to understand. Even when I think about Martin Luther King's words, and it came up in the African American Policy Forums podcast recently too, live with Kimberly Crenshaw. And I didn't mean to name drop there at all, but I just did. So there you go. But nonetheless, they talked, they quoted a book by Martin Luther King, Chaos or Community. And it was this call for Black people of African ancestry, understanding, and this is what I try to teach, that politics is about compromises and negotiations.
Mhm.
But if we keep just having this like moral focus, we will forget that politics is active. You know how they say love is an action word? Well, politics is an action word. And that's why I think about you, Jessica. I'm saying, and we met in the airport, remember?
Yes.
We're in the same sorority. I'm up here off to speak. She's going off to do some training. I don't know where you were going, but it's
I think
interesting.
I was going to DC.
You were going to DC, yeah.
Yeah.
And here we are. You're moving. You have to move. You have to be on planes. You have to strategize. You have to be in circles with people you don't necessarily love, and you have to be. You want to spend more time in circles with people you do love. But there are sacrifices being made, and I think that's what we honor about Kamala Harris. That's what we honor beyond the pantsuit, the nice flowy hair, and the pearls. We get really petty over here on Planet Venus, y'all. We like, again, the
Not a
culture.
we thing.
Speaking of, see, Miss Raven always has to take the high road. What do you expect, Raven, of the Biden Harris administration? What do you expect?
uh, I don't have expectations, and I don't necessarily feel that these two individuals are going to do a great job of representing myself or my community. But I do think they will do a better job than Trump has done. A donkey could. Um,
Oh yeah.
so that's just. I mean, I really don't have any expectations for them, other than because if I were to hold them to what they say they're going to do, that would be me expecting all the presidents to have done what they said they were going to do. I'm still waiting on that wall, like stuff like that the people are expecting.
Oh no,
So
the
these,
wall is there.
It's around his house.
yeah, this is true.
Wait, what wall? What wall does
The
he want?
the
The
wall,
Mexico wall.
yes.
Oh my gosh.
All these expectations, and it's really just it's politicking. It's the literal action of doing politics, and I mean I don't necessarily think that they are politicking for the best interest of the Black community or Black
And for the
women.
record, we do not want the wall.
We do not want the wall. We don't want the wall, but we have. I mean, we're holding these expectations.
But the wall is there.
Education funded. We want free and or not. We want free and appropriate education. We
Yeah.
want high. We want
But even with
affordable housing.
Obama, we had all these expectations for him, and now we're sitting here like he's at this point not being villainized, but he is definitely being criticized for not doing all the things that we expected him to do for our community.
But I wanted to add to that. A lot of people criticize Obama, but Obama only had 2 years of his 8 years where he had control in both houses. So if you go back, Mitch McConnell has clearly said, and all the Republicans said that they would do whatever they can to stop anything that Obama tries to do. People fail to remember that part when they say Obama didn't deliver on his promises.
Absolutely.
If he didn't have control in that Senate, as we saw with the confirmation of Amy Cohen Barrett or whatever her name is to the Supreme Court, they rushed that through. They didn't even need the Democrats. None of the Democrats showed up. They rushed that through because they had majority in the Senate. So the Senate is a very important house and a very important body. So when people say Obama didn't deliver on what he did, you have to remember he tried, he couldn't. He was blocked at every chance he gets. So he did what he set out to do, but he can't control, and he wasn't the president like Trump to just deliver a whole lot of executive orders, which he did.
He wasn't entitled.
But he didn't go rogue like Trump did. And as far as the wall is there. Trump used funds from the Department of Defense, from our military, to build that wall. He took money from them to build the wall. The wall is there. It's not all the way across the border, but it's in the high impact areas, but it's there.
Wow. Santina?
Mexico didn't pay for it, like he said, but our military did.
I just wanted to go off of what she said too. I think take Trump out of the thing because Trump is in he's in his circle of his own. But people put so much pressure on a president and not enough pressure on their local politicians. At the end of the day, when you want things done, it's going to get shown for the most part locally before something that the president can do. Now, I say take Trump out of that though, because his followers are like a cult. Like he tells them don't wear a mask and they're like, we're not wearing a mask. Who cares that, every doctor says do it. So I put him to the side, but with every president, no matter whether they were Republican or Democrat, like Raven said, they can't necessarily do everything that they promised or that we wanted or anything like that. But a lot of times it's not on them. It's more on your local and your state. And people don't realize that because they only go vote every 4 years.
This is true.
That's true.
So can I ask Simone and Jessica and Anaya, where are Black women needed in these elected positions, especially locally? Because I personally don't know a lot of the positions. I had to read up on Jessica before before I got on here. So what positions, like, of course we're needed everywhere because we're super women.
That's the answer.
But like right now, especially looking at all the turmoil and the tension that's going on, where are we needed at the most right now?
If we were to prioritize it, in my opinion, we're needed the most in legislative positions, legislative bodies, whether it's city council, whether it's county board, whether it's state senate, state house of representatives, or even national legislative bodies. That's where we need it at the most right now, if in elected positions. But I really think that we also need to be strategic and try to secure those non-legislative positions that do still make an impact on our community, just so we can have representation and build more of a coalition. Um, that's my opinion. Yeah. So I think we're needed everywhere, but I'm really strategic with. I do a lot of recruitment sometimes for positions, but I'm really strategic with what we do. It may not be the most glorified position, but we're needed. We're needed.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Sorry.
I was gonna say either like city council or even I know here in Chicago they don't elect the school board, but in my hometown it's like a smaller hometown. They do elect the school board. I know. I'm pretty sure last time I checked, I think in my hometown, their school board, there are no Black women on the school board. But just from my personal experience in the district, most parents that I saw, like usually 9 times out of 10 in my classroom, they were being raised by a Black single mother, but there aren't even Black women on the school board to represent these Black women. I mean, they don't even have to be single moms, but just mothers in general. There's no, there's no one representing them. And I think that would have been great, especially when COVID hit, because when thinking about policies, or thinking about the rules that they were making, even for these kids that they have to follow during online learning, the expectations that they have for even the parents. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't even have a kid. I'm not even close to having a kid. And I know that I couldn't even deal with that stress, dealing with that, with my job and having to worry about that. It's just, I don't know. I can't imagine it. So I think that, like you said, city council, but also I think school boards, that would be really
Good
important.
example.
That's
Really good example.
I definitely agree with the school boards, especially right now in this moment of COVID and how you're seeing the school to prison pipeline being placed on more of a national level. Like there's a lot more attention going towards it because you're seeing how professors and teachers are calling police on little kids over a Zoom call because they're playing with toys. So that's been getting a lot more traction. I would also say on your district attorney as well and who you're voting in as prosecutor. I think we need more Black women being represented there as well.
Yeah, Raven, I think it's a good question. And I think that we have a leaky pipeline too,
Mm.
meaning that we don't have people, the excuse there's not enough black women. Well, that's a myth. That's a falsity. It's about who we're going, which mothers are we going to ask to run for school board, which
Mhm.
mothers are we going to put our resources behind, and
Mhm.
which mothers are we going to mobilize for. So I think that that goes back to these politics of respectability on the one
Mm.
hand, who should hold these offices, but then on the other hand, too, I think that starts early on. And I think that's what I think about when I think about Kamala Harris. And I could laugh about, the look of these pantsuits, right? These Hillary Clinton pantsuits. And, so she's pulling like this play out of what I feel like is Hillary Clinton's playbook, while Biden is pulling, ironically enough, out of Obama's playbook, when I'm like, no, this is the time that you become a white man and like man up, like grab your white male penis and get some like false machismo and let us know that everything is gonna be okay. Like own it, man. Right? We don't need another Obama. Obama was positioned differently.
Mhm.
And so Kamala Harris
Mhm.
represents, and we talk about this all the time, you all on Planet Venus, like representation
Mhm.
and role modeling. Like, what does that mean? Real models, right? So I was thinking I celebrated, Kamala Harris because she showed up and she showed out and she was very, very present. And now our girls don't only have to choose between, say, Beyonce
Mhm.
and being very, very high yellow, light skinned,
Skinny.
with long blonde weave in the middle of the Africa. Oh, I'm sorry, I digress. I really did like the movie though, by the way. But it's just something like, wait a minute. Wait, that's yeah. So anywho, I'm sure there are people blonde hair in the middle of Africa. There are actually. But you have this long, this is what our girls were choosing from. You Beyonce, very heterosexism in your face or heterosexuality in your face.
Mhm.
I'm a singer, beautiful, light skin, a certain polished look. I'm married to a rap mogul versus, hey, look at me, I'm Cardi B, and I climbed my way up through the strip club, and became a dope rapper, and look at my body, I'm looking similar to Beyonce. But now we got even Kamala Harris.
Mhm.
So I think the more representation, then we can start having girls see themselves as a leader in a variety of ways,
Mhm.
right? Like I want Jessica, no, I'm just kidding. I had to have Miss Soror City Auditor like on this show because she represent all of that magnificent diversity.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? Satina as a mom saying, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. I work in college spaces. I graduated. I have an opinion and I'm a mother,
Mhm.
right? And then Simone, who's
The mother
also
of
in
me
the
right
non
now.
she's mother. This is the only on Planet Venus. This that last week we had a mother breastfeeding on the show. I'm like,
We
only
did.
on Planet Venus. And the baby was eating good
She
too,
was like, you could. Her toes are probably like this.
just slurping. And then we have Simone, who's also in the nonprofit. So I think like even this platform represents, the diversity of women who are already engaged in various forms of politics.
Mm.
Jessica, what are your thoughts?
About representation,
Yes, ma'am.
about I think representation is very important. And that's why I advocate and still try to uh, encourage people to run for different positions within local government, whether it's at the county level, township level, city level.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's very important for us to be engaged. But the issue I see with Black women getting involved is finances. Like,
Mhm.
how do you manage your household and run for office? How do you make sure you keep up to date with your kids on virtual learning and run for office? Running for office is a lot of sacrifice, whether you're married, you're single, um, whether you have kids or not. It's really time consuming, and you need a lot of financial resources. And unfortunately, we just don't have access to high capital people or high capital resources in the African American community to truly to say I'm gonna run for this office and just take it. I'm helping a number of people try to run for office in the upcoming municipal election, and that's the biggest thing is finances. You know, we want these representation and we want these people in these particular places, but we have to also be able and willing to finance that.
Hmm. So Simone, tell me this, and Satina, are you back? Are you through feeding our baby? I think Satina is still trying to feed the baby. Simone, how does a girl get involved in the nonprofit sector or service sector?
Yeah. Well, originally I wanted to work for NGOs or just anything international, really.
Mhm.
And I was realizing that maybe my mom might have been right and I should have taken advantage of more internships or fellowships when I was younger, because a lot of those like NGO positions
Mhm.
require, you know, a lot of experience even when you're just graduating, that I didn't have. So I started looking at just nonprofit positions in general. And then I came across the position that I first started out in, and I had heard of Big Brothers Big Sisters before. I had an aunt who was a big sister for like over 10 years. My stepmom, and it's like a couples match is what it's called. But that's how I got involved, because I knew as soon as I got into political science that I wanted to use that major to help people. I didn't want to just, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people, they always assume if you are a poli sci major that you're automatically going to go to law school. And that just wasn't what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to help people somehow. So that's pretty much how I got into working in nonprofit. And I will say that like it's a lot more work than I thought that it would be. And it requires,
Mhm.
I cannot even tell you how much patience working in nonprofit also requires. And Santina knew me in college, and I'm sure she can attest to the fact that I'm not a super patient person. So, nonprofit, I feel like as much as I feel like I help people in that role, I feel like it's helped me grow to be more, little more patient. So,
Good, good. I'm sure our audience would be interested in that. And Raven, I know you also worked in nonprofits. I also, Simone, have done a lot of NGO work outside the US, in particular in South Africa, several states, and in West Africa, Ghana, where I still do a lot of work. But Raven, what you also worked in nonprofit sector.
Yeah, it
What
almost
are the
broke
pros
me.
and cons? Yeah, yeah, I was great to say. You see, you walked right into my question. What are the pros and you're still giving service? Here you are on Planet Venus.
Oh
So tell
man.
me about that. What is that like, and how does that lead? And how is that a form of politics, even if it's the informal?
Oh wow. So I found myself when I was working with with City Year, I was just a student success coach. Like I wasn't actually like working there. I was just like a little peasant. Um, and that's how I felt.
Jessica feels that way sometimes too.
Understandable, but you do brush a lot. You brush shoulders a lot with a lot of politicians. And so we did have conversations with people on the school board. I met, I think, the coroner of Fort Worth, because it was in Texas, the DFW Metroplex. Um, and I worked at a school, and I love those kids. I still talk to those kids. But if I'm gonna be honest, like if they weren't there, I would have quit because there, like you said, there's a lot of politics in it. There's a lot of people who are justifying gentrifying neighborhoods and pushing people out that are over these nonprofits. I mean, I actually talked to
Wow.
woman
Oh, she
here.
getting into the nonprofit, and you know what? Me and Jessica like our jobs. We're out.
I'm just saying, like, I mean, and they do a lot of good work, but it is
Yeah, I agree.
at the expense of the the lower people, the people who are actually doing the work, um, their sanity, their
Mm.
dignity, and I do truly mean dignity, but I wouldn't change it because it showed me a lot about who are actually behind some of these nonprofits, especially the really successful ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I call it's called the nonprofit industrial complex, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some literature on that. And I think we should have an honest conversation. And I think that Miss Jessica, I really do want her to talk about that. And we may have to come back for this conversation because I was actually wondering, like, I know she sacrifices a lot because I get to read her story. And as you all know, I'm a historian of women. I can watch you from afar before I come and actually formally for your story. That's what I do. I document leadership and how we get to where we are. And so the question that I want us to really contemplate, Raven, I'm sorry, you guys know I just went right in. Did you see how my voice changed as I started to get really serious about this? But that's a real question. How do we do the work without sacrificing our bodies, our souls, and our minds? And to Miss Jessica's point, even our financial security.
Mm.
Because as Zora Neale Hurston said, Black women are the mule of the earth. The mule of the earth. And I know I want to be mindful of time. Simone, I saw that triggered you, so I do want you to comment. And also, I know that Anaya, who has 7 majors, and also like Kamala Harris, she's also a Caribbean woman. So I want to talk about that too, like these images around who does the work and how the work gets done and how much of what is our work ethic and at what point do we get to rest.
Mm.
So Simone, let's go to you and I'll let Aya speak on it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for myself at least, I'm trying to figure out how to, I guess I don't have to be PC on here. So trying to be nice about it, but I feel like in my role, I have, even though we're a nonprofit that's here to serve, and I hate this term, but at-risk youth, I feel like even though we're supposed to be serving them, I still have to advocate so hard for these kids because at the end of the day, yeah, we primarily serve like Black and Latinos kids, but if you look at our like upper management,
Yes.
I
White
think,
women who making a hell of a lot of money. I'm sorry, y'all. I just broke.
and white men. Our CEO
White
is a
men.
white man.
White men too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I need to dig deeper. Okay.
Yeah, our CEO
Yes.
is a white man who thinks that it's okay and hip to wear Jordans and a snapback whenever he goes to visit like different program location sites. Mind you, this man is a white man in his like late 40s. So
Wow.
yeah. So and all of upper management, I think except for maybe one person is white. So and even yeah. So it's just very I feel like I have to advocate for kids that we're advocating for at my job, and it does get very like mentally draining because I'm like, who else is here for these kids? Like, I can't be the only one who's here for these kids.
Yeah.
Like, because eventually one day I'm not going to be working here anymore. So who is going to keep like y'all are here supposedly here to serve these kids, so serve these kids. Don't you in nonprofits, a lot of times, I think that we are truly there more to serve the people giving the money than we are there to serve who the money is going to. That's been my experience.
That was heavy.
You done said a word.
And it's just, I mean, no matter, I see it even in my day to day. I interview volunteers, and there's some volunteers where I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you do not need to be a mentor for
Yeah.
multiple reasons. A lot of times, cultural competency, just flat out. Like, you want to be matched with a Black little because as a white man, you don't want him to be scared of you. Really?
I remember some of those profiles because I would have to type them up like after they would do them, and there were some really yikes ones, like the white girl who wants to just give back to the little Black kids, and like you're not carrying case, like that's not what the program's about. Like,
yeah.
And they don't understand that when we hear that, that's like a microaggression.
Yeah.
it is right.
So you
like,
just took a whole day off our life because you're Anaya. Tell me, what's up with these multiple identities and roles and responsibilities. Some we asked for and some we didn't.
Sometimes it's just, don't you just feel tired? Like a lot of the time, like you're navigating all of this. And I'm gonna speak for myself here. I'm gonna out myself one more time. Because it's like I'm an immigrant, I'm queer, I'm black, and I'm a woman. And it's like all of these identities. So you're getting hit from like all these multiple impacts, but you have to do work on every single line of defense. And it's kind of like coming back to your question of when do you rest? Because right now I'm sacrificing and just running on like fumes. But it's also sometimes in my head, I don't know. I went to this talk the other day where they were talking about Black girls and Black women and how like also Black girls don't have good representation of what healing and rest looks like because their Black mothers are constantly going and all over the place.
Wow. Wow, hold on.
Yeah,
Daughter,
that
I love
me.
you.
Yeah, I think for me, like I had a breakdown. I didn't have breakdown, but I don't know. I don't know if Raven and Simone are friends with me on Facebook, but like I had a meeting and it was supposed to be like an off the books, you know, we're just talking about it type thing. And I am the only Black that at my job at UNF in the library. I am the youngest at 26, and I'm the only one who has a kid. Yes, everybody is old and white. No shade to anybody, but everybody's old and white, and then there's me. And so everyone's talking, and you know, at this time it was when we were kind of at the height of the rioting and you know all of that. And I'm just like, I know your problems are not my problems type thing. And they're all like, I can't wait till we can get back so we can have potlucks. And I just miss you guys. And oh my God, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I'm sitting here like looking at my phone to see where the next riot is or if a kid got shot or this or that. And my kid is crying. And, you know, like it's like all these things are going on in my head. And they're thinking about when's the next time we're going to, you know, have a fruitcake. Like, and it just reminds me that all the stuff's going on in our life doesn't have to affect them if they don't want it to.
Exactly.
So I know I see Jessica, I think I see you sometimes on social media. I don't know if it's your nieces or kids you volunteer with. And I've seen you out in the community before with girls. So I want to give you the last say. If you can close us up in like 2 minutes, what do we need to be telling our girls about the state of politics for Black people?
The state of politics for Black people. Yeah. So I have a little sister and she's 12. So what I try to teach and instill in her is that nothing in life is fair, especially when it comes to just life in general. But politics is everything in life, like everything in life. So she's involved now. She comes to meetings with me. She speaks up at meetings about things that she doesn't like about the city and stuff like that. I teach her to be unafraid to speak up if she has an issue or she feels some type of way. And you know, Shirley Chisholm is one of my icons, so I teach her to be unbought and unbossed. Like if you feel some type of way, speak up and say something. You're the only advocate sometimes for yourself and sometimes even for other people. And to don't allow, I mean, it's just life lessons. Don't allow someone to draw from your cup that doesn't pour in. So you got to maintain, you got to maintain yourself and your level of contentment and your strength in politics and the world in general, because it's rough. It's not easy. And she talks about bullies at school or people making fun of her. I hate that, but that's unfortunately life. Like I get bullied in politics. I get people bullying me all the time, from the state's attorney and to other people on the county board when they don't want me doing something or don't want other people to know about it. So bullying, unfortunately, is just a part of life. It's how you kind of navigate that, but you have to be emotionally strong.
Got it. Thank you so much. I want to thank you all for your time. Miss Jessica Thomas, Satina, also Mom Willis, Miss Simone, Over here saving the black world in Chicago, Newsom, and my favorite attorney, Anaya Francis. Raven, you want to close us out?
Yes, thank you all once again for coming on. Thank you for listening too. You can follow us at Planet Venus Institute on both Instagram and Facebook, and on Twitter at Planet Venus 365. Also, we have a Black Girls Mental Wealth Academy that just rolled out. So if you know someone that is high school age or a little bit older, around 21, that wants to enroll, go ahead. Go to planetvenus.com and you will find the links.
Thank you all.